everyone, it's Heather. Welcome back to my channel. I like to create videos related to health and fitness content because it's something I'm super passionate about. Today I'm really happy to be sitting here today and I'm going to talk to you about my personal experience with oral allergy syndrome. I figured I'm gonna do more of like a Q&A kind of style video. Not that I have any questions that anybody gave to me, but I'm just going to talk about some of my most asked questions that people in my daily life ask me. So the very first question is, what are your first memories of oral allergy syndrome? And for me personally, I've always dealt with oral allergy syndrome. I just didn't know that that's what it was that I was dealing with. I remember as young as 10, I went to a friend's house and her mom had a juicer and she's like, oh my gosh, we should make juice, like that'll be so much fun. So we made juice and I can't remember what we put in it. I think there was pineapple and other fruit, and I had one sip and my mouth just started burning. Like it was so uncomfortable. So I remember drinking this juice, my mouth had pretty much an instant reaction and I couldn't finish it and she got really mad at me. So that was fun. So yeah, I kind of found over the years after that incident, there was always random things that triggered this random reaction and I could never figure out what it was. So like one day, maybe I ate way too much chocolate, which is kind of common for me. Like one day it's too much chocolate, another day it's like, oh, I ate this fruit and now it seems my mouth is hurting. Or, you know, if I had a meal, I couldn't figure out what it was in that meal that was causing all these reactions. So yeah, basically that's all I really remember. Having all these random reactions and not knowing what really caused it, thinking maybe it was a food. But again, there's something called geographic tongue, which I kind of always thought I had because that's what it looked like in my mouth. I'll insert a photo here so you can see like what I was dealing with. However, I didn't have that, but that's what I thought I had. All right, so the next question is, what is oral allergy syndrome? So I get this question a lot when people ask me like, why can't you eat fruit? Basically, I like to start by saying it's a cross reaction between pollen that's in the air and the foods you eat. So I'm really allergic to pollen, particularly birch tree pollen. Random, but yeah. And if you look at the molecular structure of the pollen, it's surrounded by all these little proteins called PR proteins. I did make a video about this if you want more of the pathophysiology of this disease, and I'm gonna link the video in the iCard, whichever side it's at. So basically, these proteins that surround the pollen are pretty much the same as the proteins that surround different fruits and vegetables and nuts and other types of foods. So when I eat, say, an apple, my body thinks that I'm eating birch pollen. Lovely, eh? And so basically what happens is I get the reaction only in my mouth and sometimes in my throat. So it'll feel really itchy, my tongue will swell up, it'll hurt. It'll look like I have geographic tongue, but I don't. What that actually is hives, which people always tell me that, ew, that's so gross, you get hives in your mouth, but it's like, it's just hives, relax, like it's not that bad. It's just hives, it's not a big deal, guys. But anyways, that's basically what it is. The only issue with oral allergy syndrome is because it causes swelling of your tongue and swelling sometimes in your throat, that can actually be very dangerous because what if you stop breathing, right? So for me personally, I carry an EpiPen just in case. I always have allergy medication on me in case I eat something that triggers it. I've never had a reaction that bad, but talking to my doctor, that is a possibility. So it's really important to be really cautious. All right, so the next question is, when did you find out you had oral allergy syndrome? So I found out I had oral allergy syndrome about 2 years ago. It's kind of a long story, but I'll really sum it up quick for you. Basically, in April of 2 years ago, this was before I was going on vacation, my entire mouth swelled up, like so much. I'll see if I can find pictures. If not, I'll find a photo that was kind of similar to what I was dealing with. But it was mainly my tongue. It was so swollen and it was really painful. And I couldn't think of anything I ate that would have triggered that reaction. I couldn't think of anything I really did differently. And so, you know, I took photos of it and then I actually had to go to vacation. So I went on vacation. Me and my mom and my sister went to Cuba, which was so much fun. But it was funny, the second I got to Cuba, my allergies kind of just went away. Like that mouth swelling went down dramatically within a day or two. And then when I came back, I actually noticed that my mouth started swelling up again. So I was like, what the heck is going on? Turns out I went to the doctor and she referred me to an allergist who did my allergy test, and I'm just very allergic to birch pollen. So that's why in April I was having such bad reactions, because that's the time when birch trees release their pollen. So perfect. Oh, it was such a rough time. The next question is, how does oral allergy syndrome differ from anaphylaxis, or like a systemic allergy that people typically have when they eat peanuts or something like that? So it differs from like a regular reaction just because, as I said before, the reaction's caused by all these little proteins on the surface of pollen or other fruits. The thing is, when you eat these foods, the reaction actually only occurs in your mouth and not systemically, because as you chew and as you break down the food, you actually break down those proteins with your saliva. So that's why it's called oral allergy syndrome. It only occurs in the mouth and sometimes the throat, right? Because you don't always break everything down as you swallow it. But the second it gets into your digestion as well, that breaks down the proteins further, so you don't have a whole systemic reaction. But depending on the severity of your oral allergy syndrome, like I said, I carry around an EpiPen. It is a good idea to just make sure you go to your doctor, get that checked, because for certain people, the swelling in the mouth and the throat can get so bad because your airway will constrict. So I would say it differs, but it can be very similar as well. All right, so the next question is, what are your food triggers? So for me, I just react to many different fruits, some vegetables, nuts like walnuts that are very similar to birch pollen. I'm gonna put a picture here. Many of these fruits I do react to. There's also a lot of other weird things as well that I react to. But one weird thing about oral allergy syndrome is that I tend to, and a lot of people with oral allergy syndrome, tend to not react to foods that are cooked, canned, or processed. And that's just a thing. And like I said before, the surface of that pollen molecule or the food molecule has these proteins that you react to. When you cook these food particles, or when you cook the food, when you can it or you process it, it breaks down these proteins. So when you eat it, you don't get a reaction. So that's why a lot of the time I get kind of made fun of or like judged because I can eat apple pie, but I can't eat apples. A lot of people like to say that, oh, convenient, you can't eat apples, but you can eat the apple pie, right? Like, you see what I'm saying? They're saying I can't eat the healthy food, but I can eat the unhealthy food. And like, sure, if you want to think of it that way, I would rather eat the apple pie, but it's actually true. I cannot eat the raw apple because it'll give me a reaction, versus if it's cooked in an apple pie, different story. I don't react. I'm good with that. And you know what? I think I'm much happier. So that's good. So the next question that I have here is, how did you figure out your food triggers? So there's 3 different things that I did. First one, allergy test. I went to my doctor. The first thing I did was go to my doctor when I noticed my mouth was swelling, when I noticed these weird symptoms and I thought I had geographic tongue and all this stuff. I went to my doctor. They referred me to an allergist who was able to help figure it out for me. The second thing that I did was I did do a bit of internet research once I found out I had oral allergy syndrome. So like I said, there's this figure here that shows all the common foods that you react to if you're allergic to birch pollen. Other people, unlike myself, might be allergic to ragweed or might be allergic to other types of plants that cause you to react to other types of foods because they would be more similar in structure to other plants. So this is a figure that I use to kind of help me figure out what my triggers are. I'd say most of these ones I do react to and I try to avoid. But yeah, just by looking at more scientific type articles, making sure you're looking at legitimate resources to point you in the direction of these are some common food triggers. Try avoiding those and see if you notice a difference. So that was a big way. And finally, the third strategy that I used was actually keeping a food journal and recording everything that I was eating, everything that I was putting into my body, as well as the reactions that occurred. So it allowed me to kind of do a cause and effect almost. Like I could tell pretty soon after I ate certain foods I would get a reaction, or if I went to someone's house for dinner and I noticed a reaction, I would then kind of ask, okay, what was in the food, you know, to try to figure it out. For my food journal and food diary, I actually used this book here, which is a book that I wrote myself. I'm really proud of this. I actually wrote it a few years back, so I've been using this for a while. And since then, I've been doing some updates in the background, but we're keeping that hush hush for now. But basically, yeah, this is a book that I wrote. It's an inspirational book to try to help people set and track their health goals. For me, this really helped me with figuring out my allergies, but even with my health and fitness, it helped me stay on track with those goals. So if you want to purchase a copy, I only have a few left. So I have a link to my website where you can see where to get one. They're also on Amazon, I believe. So there you go. All right, so the next question I have is, what do you do if you get a reaction? Like, what happens? So for me, I can generally tell within the first 5 minutes of eating something whether I'm gonna react to it or not. It's a pretty quick reaction. So if I'm ever eating something new, I'll always make sure to test it. Well, first I'll always ask what's in it, make sure that it's nothing I know I'm allergic to. But if I try it, I'll wait 5 minutes and just see that I'm okay. If I'm okay, then I'll keep eating it. Sometimes you'll get a reaction. Sometimes the reaction takes longer than 5 minutes and I'll eat a bunch of it and then I'll realize, oh shoot, I'm allergic. Yeah, then at that point, what I do is I usually rinse my mouth out with water. I take an antihistamine, usually like a 4-hour Benadryl type thing, just to kind of get that in my system. What else do I do? Drink water, take an allergy pill, and I stop. Oh yeah, I stop eating what I'm eating. Of course, stop the second you notice a reaction. Make sure that you just stop, because I've noticed if I just keep suffering through it, if I feel bad, you know, somebody served me this food, I don't want to not eat it. If I suffer through it, I do suffer. Like for like 3 days sometimes, my mouth will be all swollen and sore, so it's just not worth it. So my next question is, what are your next steps with oral allergy syndrome? So for me, now that I have it, I know what it is, I know my food triggers. My biggest thing that I'm doing is just avoiding all those foods that I cannot eat, and I'm trying to incorporate foods I actually can eat. I try not to focus as much on the negative, I focus more on the positive. So I can still eat a lot of vegetables, I can still eat berries, those tend to be okay with me. So it's not that I can't eat anything. And another thing as well, there was a point where I was really frustrated with having all these allergies and I was kind of feeling negative, so I went and booked an appointment with my doctor just to talk about it and see what my options were. And she actually referred me to an allergist, and I'm gonna inquire about getting allergy shots. So basically they give you a very small dose over time of the allergen with the hope that it will reduce your allergy over time. So who knows if it'll work. If I end up going through with that and if that's a good option, maybe I'll document it and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's my next step, is just to see if maybe I can do something to help solve this allergy problem. The next question I have is, do you have any advice for anyone with oral allergy syndrome? I would say if I could give advice to somebody with oral allergy syndrome, I can think of 3 things. So the very first thing that I would say is, don't suffer through reactions to please other people. This is something that I've really had to learn over time. So I found that whenever I would go to people's houses, or like my mom, no offense mom, she's probably laughing right now because she knows it's true. But like, a lot of the time people will serve you things that you're allergic to and you have to turn it down. You have to be like, no, I can't eat this. And some people won't understand. They'll be like, why can you eat apple pie but you can't eat apples? Like, you know what I mean? And they'll give you a hard time for it, but I think you just have to learn to stick to your guns and just not eat the foods that you know are gonna cause you pain and suffering later. It's as simple as that. But for me, it did take me a long time to kind of get that courage and to not suffer through reactions. Another thing as well is, I think with allergies, it's like the more exposures you have, the more your body mounts an immune response. This could be wrong, but this is what I've heard. So if you can try your best not to cause yourself these reactions, like if you can avoid a reaction, you should just try to, you know, and it does prevent you from suffering as well later. So that would be the first thing that I would say. The second thing I would say is to see your doctor. So for me, again, like it took me many years of just like Googling and thinking I had geographic like tongue or whatever it's called. And I always just passed it off as that. I ignored the issue, and I thought I had my own diagnosis in my mind, and it turns out I was completely wrong. So I would just say, like, save yourself the time and the suffering of like going through reaction after reaction by just going to your doctor and getting your allergies tested. Like, it's as easy as that. If you see an allergist, they can help you and they can tell you whether you have the condition or not. So that would be my second piece of advice. And then the last thing number 3 is that you are not alone. I know oral allergy syndrome does suck and it is hard to get through, but you're not the only one dealing with it. So I feel like with me over time tracking my food, I have been able to figure out my triggers. And so I'm confident that if I can do it, you can also do it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you liked it and I hope it was helpful for you. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. It really helps my channel. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have a lot of really awesome plans for this channel, so stay tuned for that. If you have any questions about oral allergy syndrome, please leave it in the comments down below. And if you have an experience with oral allergy syndrome, leave that down below. I'm curious to see if you personally deal with oral allergy syndrome, what foods are you allergic to and what foods can you eat? I'm just curious, so I'll pass that question off to you guys. Again, I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.